there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Ducati NYC vlog podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to the second episode of this beautiful beast. Today, we're going to talk about my very first cross-country ride from New York City to San Francisco on my motorcycle. This is a topic that I get asked about all the time, about how it came to be, why I did it, when I did it, how I did it, with what I did it, and so on. But we're going to start at the very beginning. The actual trip happened in August 2015, but the planning has happened for many years before that. Basically, for years and years, before I had the motorcycle, I've always talked about how I want to ride cross-country, how I want to ride to California, how I'm going to ride to California, but first I need a motorcycle license. It was kind of like a joke. It was kind of like a reoccurring thing, like, how am I going to ride to California if I don't have a license? And eventually, it got to the point where I was like, is this something I'm actually going to do, or is this something that I say to people to make myself seem cool and adventurous? And I've even had a few people be like, dude, stop talking about it. So then I kind of stopped talking about it. And then all of a sudden, I got my motorcycle license. And when I was getting my motorcycle license, about 5-10% of it was about this cross-country trip and how I wanted to get it done and how I needed a license and everything. But it was more than that. Long story short, or to speed up the beginning of the story, I should say. I got my license, and then literally a year later, I got my license in July, and then in August the following year, my buddy Birdie Bird and I rode to California. Along with us was another friend of mine named Greg, and he's a great guy. He's still a great friend of mine, and he actually came on the second cross-country trip as well. Greg only rode with us to Tail of the Dragon to Tennessee, and after that he had to go on his own way. But let's start at the beginning. So, how did we decide to take the route we took, to stop where we did, when we did, and all of that? Well, we knew we had to go in the summer because that was the only time that I could take a few weeks off. And we didn't really know how long it would take us, because I've never done anything this long, this big. And by luck, I totally begged my boss for 3 weeks off. So I had 3 weeks paid vacation to ride to California, which was incredible. And my buddy Bird, he works in Department of Education, so he could just, take any time off. And that was before he was married, before he had kids. So obviously it was like an easy thing for him. And my buddy Greg, I believe he was working kind of independently at the time, so he can go anytime. So anyway, we planned the dates. And then there was a few things that I knew I wanted to see. And they included Tail of the Dragon in Tennessee, Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, and the state next to it, Nevada. Then I also wanted to see Denver, Colorado. I wanted to see, my buddy Bird wanted to see Yellowstone Park and Beartooth Pass over there and all of that. I had no interest in it, but I'm really glad that we went there. Our other stop was Reno, Nevada, and then we were going to go to Lake Tahoe, where my buddy had a house and a boat. So it was kind of like a no-brainer. And the finish was going to be in San Francisco, where the same friend with Lake Tahoe spot has a place in San Francisco as well. So that's my buddy John, and that was incredible. But let's not rush ahead. So the bike I was riding was a 2006 Ducati Monster 620. And at that point, I've been riding for a year, and I put on a few thousand miles, and I did a few mods. So the bike was ready. And I was ready with it, and it was like fully inspected, new tires, new chain, everything worked perfect. Well, actually, it's a lie, because my chain almost came off, but that's later. My buddy Bird was riding a brand new Harley Davidson Sportster 883 iron. And at that point, he's also been riding it for a year, and he had a few thousand miles on it. Not as many as I did. He rides a lot less, irrelevant. So that was his bike. And my third friend, Greg, who only, went to Tennessee with us, so he went like a third of the way with us, or even less, a quarter. He was riding a brand new 2014 BMW S1000 RR, the sports bike. It was literally brand new. It had like a few hundred miles on it. It had he just put on a full titanium Akrapovic exhaust. That thing was a beast with a quick shifter and everything. It was hilarious. Bert and I were like on our little twins thumping along, and he would just like rip by going 140, quick shifting, fucking flames shooting, the works. But that was good. And at one point, like about a couple hundred miles into our ride, my buddy Greg on his brand new BMW decided to do a U-turn on a super steep street. And he actually had to lay down his bike because the turn, like he was doing a sharp U-turn on a super steep street, and he just, leaned over too much. And he had to like stop and lay down his bike on the ground. It was insane. But luckily there was no damage. He just fucked up the stock turn signal, and we were on our way. But from New York, we right away headed down south and kind of southwest to Tennessee. We went through New Jersey, Pennsylvania. We went through Virginia. We basically went down Blue Ridge Parkway, Smoky Mountains. And that was a wonderful thing. We got soaked in the rain right away, all that stuff. My buddy NYC Scrambler, Jason, who I'm going to have on the podcast, was actually with us for the first small little section. He went to like a couple hundred miles with us in the beginning, and then he fell back. But yeah, and Blue Ridge Parkway was just incredible. We like saw a bear on the way, running along the road. We stopped in a million places, a million vistas, rented a bunch of motels. And this was actually interesting because this was back before Airbnb was really a huge thing as it is now. I mean, it existed back then, but I just was not aware of how easy and how quick you can rent a house, a cabin, whatever. So every day we relied on motels and hotels. And one other thing that we did was we didn't plan anything. Like I said, we knew we wanted to take Blue Ridge Parkway to Tail of the Dragon and this and that, and a few little stops. We wanted to see Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, but we did not have an exact plan. So we had 0 places booked. So basically the plan is at 6 p.m. every single day when you get tired after riding all day, because we would be kickstands up at like 9 in the morning. We would just start looking for hotels. All of us would like call a few places and find a few spots, and then just as long as it's like some hotels were like $30 a night, some were $100 a night. So it's a little bit of both, the lap of luxury and then nothing. Like, for example, I don't want to jump ahead, but in Denver when we pulled up, there was a convention. First it was like a Motley Crue concert and also outdoorsman convention. So everything in Denver was booked up. So we actually stayed in downtown Denver at a fancy ass suite for like $350 a night. And that was hilarious. That was annoying, but it was whatever. It was worth it. So Tail of the Dragon was incredible. We got there on the second day, and it was perfect. We hit it like 5 times back and forth. It actually reminded me of back in the day when I used to ride downhill, where your wrists hurt from like all the brake pump and everything, from all the braking and clutching the bars, especially if you don't know the road and you're like handling the bars like a savage. So that was very interesting actually, because after like one run, which is like 11 miles, I forgot how many turns it is. It's like something ridiculous, like 300 turns in 11 miles, Tail of the Dragon. If you don't know about this road, definitely check it out. Worth a visit. I've been there twice now. But so you literally get exhausted after a few runs. And we did 5 runs back to back, and we ended up staying at this Dragon's Tail barbecue spot with like really awesome host. We had a fire pit. And I had no idea that that area is a dry county, so there is no alcohol being sold. And at the end of riding all day, I don't know, it's very important to have a beer. And we didn't get to have a beer. And so we literally had to ride like 30 miles outside the county before the store. It was like 8:30 at night, 9 at night. The store was about to close. And we gunned it to this other county just to buy a bunch of beer and like ham and cheese, and to make like ham and cheese and sandwiches and beer, because all the places were closed. All the restaurants were closed. Everything was closed. It was kind of ridiculous. I'm sure that's probably not normal and we just don't know where to go. But Tail of the Dragon was great. And my friends lamed out. And I ended up sitting by the fire pit by myself till like 2 a.m, just chilling. It was fucking incredible. It was really good. So the next morning we just woke up, rode a few more times, Tail of the Dragon, and ended up riding on. My buddy Greg, at that point he headed back, and actually ended up like camping by his bike in the middle of nowhere. So good for him. That was good. But the next ride, the second cross-country ride, my buddy Greg rode a Road King instead of the S1000RR, so that was a little more appropriate. But I'm going to talk about the second cross-country trip in the second cross-country trip podcast. Anyway, after Tail of the Dragon, my buddy Bird and I continued on, and we went to Nashville, Tennessee, just to check it out, just to say we did. We like had some coffee there and just kept it going. Then we hit Arkansas, we hit Missouri, we even like dipped into Oklahoma, because the idea was to hit as many states as possible, just to say we did. We did actually 18 states, 5,200 miles by the time everything was said and done. So places like Oklahoma, like we just dipped into it. Same with Kansas, same with Nebraska. Kansas, however, was pretty freaking incredible. First of all, we went to Kansas City to some barbecue place, and that was okay. You know, we probably didn't go to the best one, and it was crowded and crazy. But we were riding through Kansas randomly, late at night. We didn't even have a place to stay or nothing. And then we see, like in the middle of some random field, we see 1,000 cars. We see cars everywhere. And we ended up stumbling completely randomly across the biggest rodeo in all of Kansas. I think the name of the town was Phillipsburg, because we ended up staying that night in Alma, Nebraska. And I remember the name Alma because long story. But yeah, we pull up to this random rodeo in Kansas, and it ended up being the biggest rodeo in Kansas of the year, the biggest show. There was a bunch of like, you know, all the bull stuff and all sorts of cowboying and shit. There was like some huge ramp set up for dirt jumps. And the best part is we pull up and there was a bunch of cops. There was a sheriff and a bunch of deputies standing there. And the only place to park was right next to them. So we park our bikes with all of our gear strapped to it next to the next to the cops. And the sheriff comes over to us and goes, "Hey, you boys came a long way." That's basically the phrase we heard everywhere, every gas station. People would walk up to us and see our New York plates and just say, "You boys have come a long way." So anyway, the sheriff says, "You boys have come a long way. And would you like to leave all your gear and all your helmets and jackets over here, and I'm going to have one of my police officers watch it for you." So that was such a sick hookup. So we literally leave all our stuff by our bikes and then walk into this rodeo like champions, just loving life. And it was sponsored by Coors Light. So inevitably we had a cup, like 1 or 2 Coors Lights. And then we were on our way because it was like, we came basically before it was over. And we were there for like an hour. And it was kind of hilarious because we pounded like 2 beers in 1 hour, and it was like pitch black, middle of nowhere. And then we like walked to the cop to like get back on our bikes, and we thank him and everything. And we ride away into the darkness, and everything was there. And the cop was super sweet, super nice. We just chatted to him about like our journey to California and whatnot. And yeah, we rode into the night, and I actually have vlogs of all of this. And let me tell you, it was the darkest night ever. But it was really incredible. Like the road was super straight. There was no businesses, nothing, left and right, anywhere. And we ended up going to Alma, Nebraska, and it was kind of funny because the people at the hotel that we came to, she was just like, oh, there's nothing here. There's nothing in this town. There's no hotels. You're not going to find a hotel. You're screwed. Like, I just sold the last room. You guys should have called ahead. And we're just like, oh, we're fucked. We're literally not going to find a place anywhere. And guess what? We literally went across the street and found a different place right away. So that lady was just blowing smoke up our ass. Like, literally, we found a hotel across the street that was dope. And we stayed there. And it was like a diner across the street, so it was perfect. We ended up going to a bar that night in Alba, Nebraska, and talking to some locals. And there was like a weird bar in the middle of nowhere in some field, but they were playing nothing but hip-hop. And at one point, they played like a bunch of Notorious B.I.G. songs, and me and my buddy Bird are like screaming and yelling like, Brooklyn, represent, you know? And everybody's having fun. And then this one little tiny skinny drunk kid came over to us, and pardon my language, but he literally came up to us drunk and was just like, yo, you two dudes riding together, what are you, gay? But he didn't use that word. He used a much more aggressive word. And it was kind of funny because he was like slurring. He was completely drunk. And he literally was just like, you know, like, you guys are from New York City. I would never in my life step foot into that shithole. And, you know, like, Nebraska is beautiful and the golden wheat fields of Nebraska is where it's at. To which I told him, I was like, dude, here's the difference between you and I, my drunk friend. Like, I live in New York City, but I also love your state, Nebraska. Like, the golden wheat fields that you're talking about, I loved it. Like, that's why I came here. I came to see the golden wheat fields and the beautiful wide open sky and stars and all that, you know? Like, you ignorant motherfucker. So anyway, and the funny thing is he ended up fucking passing out drunk like 10 minutes later. So that was irrelevant. But that was really funny. But the locals were mad cool, and it was just ridiculous to hear Biggie in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska, and just like, it was dope. After that, the next morning, for some reason, we thought that Nebraska is a no helmet state. So we literally just rode our bikes with no helmets for like 20 minutes, going like 80. Like, I mean, I did it just to do it. Right now, if you know me, like, you know, I'm a strong proponent of all the gear all the time. Like, I'm not squidding, I'm not doing all that shit. And but then I really wanted to try, for the first time ever, to ride with no helmet at speed. And my idiot, I did not even have glasses. You know, I didn't have eye protection. I have great pictures of me just like squinting and barely seeing as I speed along, going 80 miles per hour with no helmet, because I had a selfie. I had a GoPro pointed towards me. So anyway, that was ridiculous. But after that, and then we saw a bunch of people with helmets, and we're just like, oh wait, Nebraska is a helmet state? Damn. Anyway, so after that, we kind of went along Nebraska. The roads are pretty straight, you know, so we just kind of duked along Nebraska and passed along the border. Basically, Nebraska and Kansas go along each other, and we dipped from Kansas to Nebraska back and forth on our way to Denver, Colorado. And that was incredible, you know, like, and the best part is, like, my buddy Bird was running out of gas. We're on a freaking dirt road in the middle of nowhere, it seems like. And then before you know it, boom, we're in Denver. It really came up out of nowhere, Denver. And I've been in Denver a couple of different times. So I knew what to expect. You know, last time I was there, I flew, and it was a great time. My sister, actually, who's a visual artist, she had a huge show there because they built this new modern museum of art, and she was one of the first exhibitors at the museum, so that was a huge honor, but that's unrelated. So in Denver, we spent 2 days because we knew we needed a break, because all the other days before that, like all the other spots except for Tail of the Dragon, even Tail of the Dragon, we didn't stay 2 days. But like, yeah, Denver was the first place where we decided to spend 2 nights. So one day we could just wake up in the morning and just fuck around all day and just wander about on the streets. And that was right after the marijuanas became legal. So we're just like, oh my God, let's check out the marijuanas. You know, we had some edibles and whatnot, but obviously I'm lying about that. I would never. One thing I am upset about, and I told you how like there was like a outdoorsman convention and monthly cruise show in town. So everything was sold out. It was ridiculous, but it was fun. It was fun. Another thing that really annoyed me was the fact that we were like just a few miles from Pikes Peak, you know, like I was in Colorado. Like, I don't know exactly how far Pikes Peak is from Denver, but it can't be more than like 100 miles. And I literally, my buddy Bird was like, yo, you want to go to Pikes Peak? And I was like, no, it's okay. Because I was like, I guess I don't know what I was thinking. Because right now I would go to Pikes Peak in a heartbeat. And that's going to be one of my missions, actually, because I'm doing another long cross-country-ish kind of ride next year. And I'm 100% going to the top of Pikes Peak just to experience it, just to see it. The same way I went to the top of Mount Washington. Both mountains have a time trial race. And I just want to see like what the drivers are experiencing because they're going, 130 miles per hour. Obviously, I probably won't be doing that. Anyway, let's move on. From Denver, we went across. Actually, this is where things got really weird because from Denver, we went up to Wyoming. We actually went up to Casper, Wyoming, which was an insane town. And we got caught in the most massive rain ever. So if you see, like, there's a big fat road that goes from Denver to Casper. So we kind of took like a main, not a highway, but a main fat road. And when we show up to Casper and we look on the map, and that looks like a town where nothing happens and nobody lives. Obviously I don't know shit about Wyoming, so that's why I thought that. But this was at the height of fracking back in Wyoming. And we show up to this tiny sleepy town and every hotel is sold out. We're looking at rooms that were like one bed, smoking room, $300, and it was just like, what the hell is going on? That was insane prices. And then we found out about the whole fracking thing. And then we're in the gas station. It's starting to rain. Like we literally outran a storm and then the storm caught up to us. So it's about to rain and we're just screwed. We have no place to sleep. 7 p.m. We've been riding all day. This is where no planning backfires. And we're standing in this gas station and this sweet lady, tatted out lady in the big Dodge Ram pickup truck was just like, yo, my friend has a room in the back of this bar. Are you guys interested? And we're just like, fuck yeah. So we hop on our bikes and we literally ride back into the storm. My buddy Bird on his Right Thing Motos channel actually has a fantastic video, one of his most popular videos actually on his channel, about riding into the storm. And it was insane. It was the most dangerous thing I have done because there was like, you couldn't see, the rain was strong, there was no shoulder, it was wild wind, and the truck we were following was going like 60, 70 miles per hour, and I'm literally like flying down the road and flashing my high beams just so like anybody could see me, like flicking my brakes all the time so like nobody runs me off the road. It was insane. It was the most insane thing we've ever done. And my buddy Bird kept screaming because we had our Sena headsets. He kept screaming like, oh my God. So it was really annoying. But we got to this place and ended up, like literally as we pull into the place, the rain stops and it was incredible. But we ended up like this little hotel had a little restaurant and a little bar. So I ended up getting some like chicken strips, chicken tenders, and like some beers, some honey mustard. It was delicious, and my buddy Bird had like a burger or whatnot. And it was really fun. But one thing I did forget to mention was the bags that we were used. So for my whole trip, I took a Kriega US 30 bag and a Kriega US 20 and stacked them on top of each other. So a total of 50 liters. And my buddy Bird, he had a Kriega US 30 and 2 Kriega US 20s. So he had 70 liters. But anyway, that will come into play a little bit later. Anyway, from Casper, Wyoming, we went on to Yellowstone National Park. And that's where we went to Beartooth Pass, and we saw the Old Faithful geyser and all that. We saw buffalo, which was insane. Like literally, because at one point there was an accident and somebody had to get airlifted, so they had to land a helicopter in the middle of the park, in the middle of the road. So we're stuck in traffic in the middle of this like field, and we see a bunch of buffalo like 500 yards away, and the buffalo starts walking directly towards us. And I was just like, oh, isn't that cute? So long story short, there was like a 9-foot tall buffalo standing right next to me as I was sitting on my bike, and I thought I was going to get like trampled, but the buffalo, it was funny, for a really huge, tall buffalo, they were pretty skinny. But anyway, so we went all over Yellowstone National Park all day, just like looping about, doing circles. And we pull up to the Old Faithful, and apparently people wait for it to erupt for like hours or whatever, or, a certain time. We pull up, 2 minutes later it erupts, we get back on our bikes and take off. It was the most smooth thing ever. But the temperatures were crazy because Beartooth Pass, basically, the elevation is like 11,000 feet. I can't remember. But at the bottom of Beartooth Pass, it was 85 degrees. It was August. At the top, it was 30 degrees and snowing. We were freezing. And I had like one extra sweater that I brought just for this occasion, but we had no extra gear or anything. So that was that. So after Wyoming, we pop into Montana just to say we did the next day, because we found like that was another place where we couldn't find a place to stay. Yellowstone Park. Yeah, good luck finding a hotel last second. So we ended up having to rent this fancy lodge cabin, and ended up being a lot of money, but it was a glorious, glorious, glorious cabin. That was really, really fun. Then we headed up to Montana and to Idaho, just beautiful roads everywhere, just to say we did. And from there, we headed towards Bonneville Salt Flats. And let me tell you, like, this was the most lucky thing ever. We head towards Bonneville Salt Flats, and then we find out that it's Speed Week, like literally the event that everybody's looking for, everybody wants to see. So we show up to Bonneville Salt Flats, and everything is sold out, obviously, years ago, because people book way in advance. And, and we had booked nothing. We booked nothing. And by a miracle, like literally this whole trip was full of miracles. Somebody canceled the reservation like hours before, and we booked this piece of shit smoking room for $200 a night or something like that. It was way too much, but we booked it for 2 nights because we wanted to stay for Bonneville Salt Flats for Speed Week. And also my buddy Greg from earlier in the trip, he was there helping a team, like a British team, a BSA motorcycle team, achieve a speed record. But before we get to the Bonneville Salt Flats in Wendover, Utah, we tried to stay in Salt Lake City and couldn't. We ended up staying in the middle, like by some mall, by like some shit spot. But when we were riding outside of Salt Lake City, we don't know like, anything about like Area 51 and like any sort of shit like that. But we're riding through the desert. We literally are down some, abandoned little road, cruising into the desert, looking for a gas station. We like didn't want to turn around. And all of a sudden we pull up to a military checkpoint. And I have it all on video. My buddy Bert has it on video as well. But basically it was a bunch of dudes with machine guns, and they're just like, can't pass through here. And we're just like, what's over there? And they're like, nothing, but you can't pass through here. We're like, is there a gas station around? They're just like, don't know, but you have to turn around and leave. And it was like a really weird thing. And I literally made like this terrible joke about like, oh, I'm so glad you guys didn't shoot us on sight. And they didn't really laugh. But anyway, we turned around and we went on, and we never did find out what the hell was going on in that desert, but that was sketchy. And then we went on, to Bonneville Salt Flats, and along the flats, I was going like 130 miles per hour on my little Monster 125. My bike was overheating and about to explode. And we actually rode on the Salt Flats as well. But the whole damn event got rained out, which was really, really unfortunate. Because it was like, for us, it was just unfortunate because we missed the spectacle. But there were people who flew there, from California, from like Japan and from all over the world with their cars for this Speed Week to set this record, and they couldn't. And everybody was just upset. It was like save the salt, because like the last couple of years, it's like it hasn't been rained out since the 80s or something. And then the last few years it's been rained out, and it's getting worse, as I'm sure you're aware if you know about Bonneville Salt Flats. But that was pretty bad. That was definitely pretty bad. It was very unfortunate. But the Salt Flats are glorious. We had an amazing time. My buddy Bird got pulled over. It was another one of those things where he rode without a helmet, because in Utah you can ride without a helmet, but in Nevada you can't. And the town of Wendover, which is where Bonneville Salt Flats are, it's located in both towns. So he literally rode from one state to the other without realizing it, and got stopped by a cop like a dummy. And I was like, dude, I'm wearing my helmet. I don't play these games. But we hung out with my buddy Greg. We literally trespassed into one of those KIA camping spots and just used their pool and got drunk there, whatever. Went to some strip clubs, whatnot, which were like the lamest. Wendover, Nevada has the lamest strip club we've ever been to. It was like outside of the Golden Nugget or something like that. But it was like a cool car show. That's where I saw my first Ferrari Enzo and got to sit in the Ferrari Enzo, which was fucking insane. But yeah, like I won like $13 in the casino. So that was great. That was good. After that, my buddy Bird and I continued on to Reno. And it was a long shot. Like we literally were like, dude, we might have to hit the highway. We might have to just handle it. And because we wanted to make it to Reno by the night. And in Reno, it was incredible. We found like this amazing pho, Vietnamese soup kind of place, pho place, which was the most delicious pho I've ever had, besides, New York City. But one funny thing about Utah, there was a lot of crosswinds. There was a lot of tornadoes. We're riding down this field, middle of nowhere, right? And nothing in sight. And we literally see like 7 different twisters going on at the same damn time, all around us. It was literally kind of crazy. And I was getting pushed around on my bike. Now, let's do the math. My bike weighs like 400 pounds wet, and I had a 50-liter luggage, and I weighed 170 pounds. My buddy Bird's bike weighs like 700 pounds. He had an extra luggage, and he weighs 50 more pounds than me, so he was more like twice the goddamn weight. Well, maybe a little bit less. But anyway, so my bike was getting pushed around and I was losing my shit. I was scared because I was in crosswinds. Like I'm going like 70 miles per hour and I'm getting moved around the highway. So I had to slow down to like 50. And my buddy Bird is like standing up on the pegs, driving by me, one-handed, waving at me, being like, dude, the wind is in your head. It's not even windy. You're just scared. And I'm just like, dude, no, your setup weighs twice as much and you're fat, you fuck. No, I didn't say that because I'm a little chubby myself. So I would never call anybody those terrible words. But long story short, yeah, Reno was fantastic. Reno was super nice. And after that, after Reno, we chilled there. We went to some casinos, lost some money, had some fun. After that, it was a short, quick blast to Lake Tahoe. It was like super quick, like an hour or two in the morning. And it was incredible. My buddy had a house and I had a boat. And we pull up to Lake Tahoe. And I swear to God, 20 minutes after we park our bikes, we are in a boat eating chicken fingers. Chicken fingers, second time coming up this story. But yeah, we're in a boat eating chicken fingers, drinking Guinness, freaking swimming in the most gorgeous lake ever. Lake Tahoe, if you haven't been there, is beautiful. It's breathtaking. So like literally my buddy let me drive the boat. So it's starting to like rain a little bit. So I'm freaking gunning the boat in the rain, a little bit drunk. And it was just awesome. It was such a good experience to be in Lake Tahoe. It was just beautiful. And we spent the day there or two. I don't remember because at that point we were pretty much done with our trip. And the following stop after that, after Lake Tahoe, we straight up went to San Francisco. We just did a straight shot and stayed 2 nights in San Francisco, or maybe even 3 days, I don't remember. And our buddy Mike, who's from New York City as well, was meeting us in San Francisco, unrelated. And it was just really cool. We literally went on a bridge, and Golden Gate Bridge, and then we took some because we wanted to touch the water. We touched the water on the East Coast, and then we touched the water on the West Coast. And, we took pictures with the Golden Gate Bridge and all that. We went to Chinatown. Oh, one of the best things was when we pulled up late at night to San Francisco, to my buddy John's house, he welcomed us. I remember this meal to this day. It was basically just like a vicious Chinese spread. It was like 12 different entries. He just went all out for us. It was just incredible. So we had this Chinese spread, delicious beers, wine, whatever. We're just hanging out, having a blast and a half. And that was just so great. And the very next day, before I left, one thing I did organize was for my bike to be shipped back. We weren't going to ride our motorcycles back. We got our bikes shipped back, and it was about $550 to ship the bike back from San Francisco to New York City. And it took less than a week. It took 5 business days, so it was actually really quick. And you got tracking and everything. And the company was called Ace Shipping or something like that. I found it on uship.com. But the next day after our arrival, the shipping company showed up exactly at noon, like they promised. And they put my little motorcycle in this crate, strapped it up, put it in the truck, and it was gone. And I took my helmet and I took my jacket and I actually put it in a big box. And for like $40 or $30, mailed it back to New York City because I figured it would be cheaper than, checking it in on the plane. I didn't want to deal with that. So that was that. That's pretty much the trip. And then we spent a couple of days in San Francisco, and that was good. And I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's a few things that I missed about this cross-country journey, just because I feel like I'm talking really, really fast. But I didn't want to make this podcast like 2 hours long. But yeah, 18 states, 5,200 miles, very minimal highway action, just zigzagging. And every day we would just stop at beautiful places. Like at one point we stopped, I forgot what state it was. I think it was like Oklahoma or something, but we ran into some dudes who made their own moonshine. And they're just like, yo, check out our moonshine. And we went to the truck and they had this moonshine in jars. And they had a bunch of like handguns and shit. It's like, yo, dude, you want to see my gun? You want to hold my gun? And I'm just like, nah, dude, it's okay. I'm not going to hold your gun, but I'll drink your moonshine. And then like a bunch of random stuff like that. We had a delicious steak there. And then there was this other diner where we had amazing breakfast food in this like tiny little place. And then this other diner right next to, it was actually in Wyoming, I think. It was right next to a beautiful cow farm, like dairy farm and cow farm, like cow meat, beef. And there was like a diner that said best burgers ever. And we went there and I'm just like, oh, can I please have my burger medium rare or medium? And the lady was just like, honey, they were cooked 3 days ago. I don't know how they're going to come out. And I'm just like, what? And I didn't even hear that. Apparently, I didn't even hear that shit. So I kind of just, ignored it. I was just like, oh, sure, okay. I think you must be kidding. But no, those burgers were disgusting. My buddy Bird would always like risk and take, like he would buy all these crazy things. Like he would buy, like pulled beef, pulled pork with gravy from like the sketchiest places. I'm really sorry for that little like brain fart there, but I was trying to remember. But yeah, he would buy the craziest food. I would like stick with the classics. I'm just like 2 eggs and bacon or like a cheeseburger or whatever. And he would like experiment with pulled pork in the middle of nowhere before a long ride. I'm just like, dude, God bless you and your stomach. Because my buddy Bird is against fast food. He doesn't eat fast food, which made this trip actually a lot slower and a lot more expensive, but more delicious, I would imagine. But yeah, we only stopped at McDonald's one time, and it was good. Man, we developed our own humors. We developed our own jokes throughout the trip. The whole time we're just chatting on the Sennas. It was fantastic. And also another thing, my buddy Bird does not drink regular coffee, like in a hotel, motel, gas station, whatever. He does not drink that coffee. To him, coffee is like fancy schmancy shit. So he literally just we spent so much time looking for coffee shops every morning, and he has to take like 40-minute long shower. But we still managed to leave at 9 a.m. every single day. That was like what we agreed. 9 a.m. kickstands up. And by 7 p.m. every day, 5, 6, 7 p.m., we were done. Yeah, that was good. If I had to do it again, I've done it again. I did it the second time, so I'm going to talk on a different podcast about my second cross-country trip. But if I had to do it again, I would definitely leave at like 8 a.m. And instead of motels, hotels, I would book Airbnbs. Because this last summer, I've been booking in cabins and houses and Airbnb like last second. I'm talking about like 7:30, you don't have a place to stay. 7:31, you do. And you just find most amazing places out there for cheap. For $100, for 2-3 people, or like $70, you have a beautiful house with all the amenities, shower, washing machine, whatever, and menus. So you're good. Obviously, you can plan in advance, you can book things in advance, but then you're kind of limited to where you can stay, or like, what if you see something much better, but you already booked a room? So it's kind of like that. That's why, like, I kind of want to fly by the seat of my pants, and I kind of want to have an adventure. One thing that I didn't mention was, no, I have all these stories that are from the second cross-country trip. So I'm not gonna talk about those. One thing that did happen, one morning I tried to start my bike and my motorcycle would not start. Like no lights came on or anything. And immediately I freak out because it's the first time I've had that happen to me. Like literally nothing turns on. I turn the key, nothing happens. Dials don't sweep, nothing comes on. And my buddy Greg was very smug and he was like, "Oh, your fuse is blown." And I was like, "Yeah, bullshit. I don't think a fuse would do that." Boom, $1 fuse, the whole bike was fixed. Then my buddy Bird's rear brake seized up on his brand new Harley. So at one point we had to go and go to Harley and like get it like warranted. So that was that. Then I'm trying to remember if I had any other issues with my bike. My second cross-country trip, I had a couple of issues. But my first cross-country trip, I think that was that. But one thing I did basically every single morning, I would wake up before Bird anyway and have my shitty coffee from hotel like a normal person. And I would actually clean and lube my chain every single day, every single morning. Because we did, the most miles we did in one day was 525. And the least we did was like 150 because it was like shitty and pouring and cold and whatever. Or no, we were going to Lake Tahoe, I think. But on average, we did like 350 miles a day. And technically, I like to clean my chain after every 300 to 500 miles to keep it clean. And I did that every single morning. I had like an hour to kill. Like I would literally pack all my bags, be ready to go. And then I literally had an hour to just like sit there and stare at my bike and clean it and wait for Bird to be ready. But that was actually really nicely built in, great relaxing time because I got to explore the places that we stayed. Like for example, in Wyoming, we pulled up in the rain, and in the morning I realized that we're staying in the most glorious field. There was like a dead deer in the bucket right outside of our room, but that's different. But we stayed like right next to this lake, and like at night you can't see it, but in the morning you realize where you are staying, and that was freaking incredible. And I'm actually already looking forward to telling you guys about my second cross-country trip and then this Nova Scotia, Canada adventure that I did actually last year. This year I did a bunch of Maine and stuff. And yeah, like I'm telling you, if you ever dreamed or wanted to go cross-country on your motorcycle, in the car, whatever, I recommend it. It's the most incredible thing you can do. It's easy, fun. I mean, yes, you need time. Yes, you need money. Yes, you need willpower for adventure, and you need to commit. Because it was really crazy because we met so many people across the USA, so many bikers, other people who would walk up to us and be like, "Damn, you're living the dream. My whole life I wanted to ride across the USA. My whole life I wanted to do this adventure, but I never got around to it." And that's a terrible regret to have because some things like I want to do, like I want to have a Ferrari one day. It's possible I never will. But that's kind of beyond me. It's beyond my control unless like I, work for it, which I'm trying. But to do an adventure, you don't need that much. You just need to like carve out time and a little bit of money and have a working bike. Like it's possible. It's possible. Like to some people, it's a problem to ride to a different state, to like go to Maine, let alone go to freaking California. So I can see how it's intimidating and how it's like too far. But I say, if you want to ride cross country on your motorcycle, if you want to ride to like New York City or Florida or wherever the fuck, I say you just do it. You just do it. Like it's easy for me to say because at this point in my life, I'm not married. I don't have kids and I don't have that kind of responsibility, which is slowing a lot of people down. But it was totally sad to see like literally dozens of people tell us how it's their dream to ride cross country, but they never got to do it, and they don't know if they will, like, because now life is busy. It's like, dude, ride to fucking California, ride across the USA. I strongly suggest it. And the fact that I was lucky enough to do it twice with a great crew of people, with beautiful friends, it's a blessing. It's really, really a blessing. And I'm really happy I got to do it. And I'm not even sure what else to tell you guys about this little adventure. But overall, that pretty much covers it. And the bike was fine. The luggage Kriegas worked. the bikes got back. Like, I received the bike back in New York City before I was even ready to ride it. I'm not going to lie. I took like a good week off from motorcycles after the ride because I was just tired. I was over it. But it was great. It was great. Long story short, thank you so very much for listening to the little podcast and for listening to this long story. I don't even know what I was yapping about. And the sad part is this is something I've been meaning to do for so long, to tell this story, where I know I'm going to listen back to this and I'm positive that I missed at least like 50 different cool little things that happen and little stories. So perhaps this is not the last podcast I'm going to do about my cross-country trip, because as I was doing it, I knew I was creating a lifetime full of memories. Like literally, as I was riding cross-country, I was jealous of myself. I was like, damn, I'm doing this. It's happening right now. It was incredible. The memories are insane. And the pictures that I got are priceless. Like, it was just ridiculous. And that's about it. So I will revisit this topic again, I'm sure, and perhaps I'll remember some details I missed. But I think for now, this is this handles it. So once again, thank you so very much for listening to the podcast. Thank you for watching the vloggy vlog and Instagram. And for those of you who don't know, Ducati NYC vlog on YouTube and Ducati NYC on Instagram is my other social medias. So look me up there. And until next time, ride safe. Peace.